The definition of a respondent under the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act speaks of an adult male. So does it mean that you cannot file a case of domestic violence against another woman or a minor who has been coached to inflict abuse or torture upon a victim? Watch this video to know who can be a respondent in a complaint of domestic violence and how the Supreme Court has cured the defect in this law. Hi, this is Advocate Alisha Dijresh Falka, and this is my channel where I will be telling you all you need to know about the laws that matter. In my last video, I have given you an explanation of what is an aggrieved person under the law, and we have seen how it is not only a legally married wife, but all women at home who are protected from domestic violence under this act. I have also told you how the definition of an aggrieved person comprises of 4 key words: any woman, domestic relationship, domestic violence, and respondent. The first 3 of these have already been covered by me in my previous videos, and in this video I will explain the definition of a respondent as given under the Act. Now, respondent in simple terms means the person against whom a case is filed. It derives its origin from the Latin term respondentem, which means one who answers. But as often happens in law, sometimes simple terms are complicated, and this is what this Act has done by giving a definition to the term respondent. Now, respondent is defined under Section 2Q of the Act to mean any adult male person who is or has been in a domestic relationship with the aggrieved person and against whom the aggrieved person has sought any relief under this Act, provided that an aggrieved wife or female living in a relationship in the nature of a marriage may also file a complaint against a relative of the husband or the male partner. At first blush, it can be seen that the legislature restricted the definition to only adult males, which by implication excludes adult females and all minors. This would mean that no case of domestic violence could be filed against a woman or a minor regardless of abuse by them. The only exception as carved out by the legislature was if the victim was a wife or a live-in partner, then she could file a case of domestic violence against the relatives of the husband or the male partner. Now, this created an anomalous situation for women other than the wife or the live-in partner, as they could not file cases of domestic violence against their abusers if they were females or minors not related by marriage. Therefore, for instance, a non-married sister could not file a case of domestic violence against her brother's wife or the brother's children because she would not come within the meaning of an aggrieved wife or a relationship in the nature of marriage. But in the year 2016, a very important case, an interesting case came up before the Honorable Supreme Court. This case arose from a complaint of domestic violence filed by a mother and her daughter against her son, his wife, and her other daughters. The wife and the other daughters, being females, were discharged from the case by the Bombay High Court, who decided the matter on the basis of a literal interpretation of the term any adult male. The mother-daughter duo therefore challenged the constitutional validity of Section 2Q of the Act before the Honorable Supreme Court as being violative of Article 14 of the Constitution, and this led to the passing of the landmark judgment of Hiral Harsora vs. Kusum Harsora, which was decided on 6th October 2016. The Supreme Court considered the various aspects of the Act, starting from the Statement of Objects and Reasons, the preamble to the Act, as well as the other provisions, and came to the conclusion that the words adult male were discriminatory and did not have any intelligible differentia to the objects sought to be achieved by the Act. After considering the Statement of Objects and Reasons of the Act, the Supreme Court noted that the idea behind passing this Act is to provide innovative remedies to women who suffer from domestic violence against the perpetrators of such violence. The Supreme Court then looked into the preamble of this Act and held that the Act was passed to provide protection to the rights of women who suffer from domestic violence of any kind occurring within the family, and that the perpetrators of such violence may in given situations be women themselves. So therefore, the Supreme Court looked into the definition of domestic violence under Section 2A of the Act and made some very interesting observations. That violence is gender neutral, that acts of physical abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse and economic abuse can all be by one woman against another woman. It further held that in certain situations, even sexual abuse may be by one woman against another. After considering the various provisions which provide for the remedies, such as protection orders under Section 18, residence orders under Section 19 as well as monetary reliefs under Section 20, the Supreme Court observed that these remedies would be rendered ineffective if the definition of respondent was restricted to only an adult male. With regard to monetary reliefs under Section 20, the Supreme Court made a very interesting observation. If the respondent is only to be an adult male person and the money payable has to be as a result of domestic violence, compensation due from a daughter-in-law to a mother-in-law for domestic violence inflicted would not be available, whereas in a converse case, the daughter-in-law being a wife would be covered by the proviso to Section 2Q and would consequently be entitled to monetary relief against her husband and his male relatives, which includes the mother-in-law. The Supreme Court also noted that if a respondent is only to be an adult male, then it would be very easy for an adult male to escape the clutches of the law by simply putting a female forward, who would act upon the instructions of the adult male and commit all the acts of domestic violence. The Supreme Court noted the various anomalies which would result if the definition of respondent was restricted only to male persons, and came to a conclusion that a microscopic difference between female and male is neither real nor substantial and does not have any rational relation with the object of the act. Supreme Court also noted that the expression adult would have the effect of stultifying orders that can be passed under the act. The court observed that it is not difficult to conceive of a non-adult 16 or 17-year-old member of a household who can aid or abet the commission of acts of domestic violence, or who can evict or help in evicting or excluding from a shared household an aggrieved person. Also, a residence order which may be passed under Section 19(1)(c) can get stultified if a 16 or 17-year-old relative enters the portion of the shared household in which the aggrieved person resides after a restraint order is passed against the respondent and any of his adult relatives. Therefore, the Supreme Court struck down both the words adult and male from Section 2Q as being discriminatory and thus violative of Article 14 of the Constitution. As a result of striking down the words adult male, the proviso which had provided an exception to a wife or a live-in partner against the relative of the husband or male partner became otiose or useless, and thus that too was ordered to stand deleted. By virtue of this case now, a complaint of domestic violence can be filed by an aggrieved person not only against males but also against females and minors. Minors, of course, will have to be represented by their legal guardians as required by law. So, for instance, a mother-in-law can now file a case against her daughter-in-law for complaints of domestic violence. Similarly, a sister can file a case against her brother, his wife, and their children if she is subjected to domestic violence. So with this, we have now covered the definition of respondent under this Act. In my last few videos along with this, we have also covered all the important definitions under this Act. In my next video, we will delve straight into the remedies afforded to women under this law, so stay tuned. If you like my video and think my channel will be of help to you, then do subscribe to my channel. You can also like, share and click on the bell icon so you don't miss out on any of my videos. See you soon.